Is about what makes memoir memoir. And the purpose of this video is to kind of pull things together for you. We've done a lot of talking about memoir and you've read memoir, but I wanted to make sure that it's all in one kind of clear package so that when you take the assessment next week, you'll do well and you'll be able to understand what you're going to be looking for when you begin to write your own. The guiding questions for the video tonight, there's three. What makes memoir memoir? That first question out of the unit plan. And then what's the purpose for memoir? Why is memoir being written in the real world? Why is memoir more popular than ever before? And thirdly, how is memoir different from other narrative nonfiction? How is it not just a true essay? What makes memoir special? Use these guiding questions as you watch the video tonight to kind of help you stay focused on main ideas. A quick definition of memoir, and I mentioned this in some of the classes, is that memoir is a form of retrospective narrative. And basically what that means, retro, the stem retro means to look back, and spect means to look. So retrospective narrative is a story where you stand in the present time now, and you know what you know now, and you look back and you tell a story about something that happened to you in the past, and you try and make sense of it based on the knowledge you have now. You're trying to make meaning of your past, to decide how that moment in the past, now that you're that you're so many years beyond it, now that it's in context, now that you look back on it, how can you understand it differently than you did at the time that you were living through it? So it's basically a slice of life, and it writes about a moment in your life that makes other people want to read it and care about it. Again, it's your attempt to tell the story of who you are and how you might have gotten there. It's always easier, they say hindsight is 20/20, which means that it's much easier to understand things when we look back on them than it is when it's happening to us at the moment. So basically memoir is you choosing a moment in your life that you think was important and looking back on it and making sense out of it, knowing what you know today. You're trying to unpeel those layers of who you are. Every day that you live, you add another layer to your personality, to your character, to the person that you are. And memoir is a chance to look back and unpeel some of those layers and try and understand how they impacted you today. There's some important reasons to write memoir. This is that second question. The bottom line to memoir is that people choose to write memoir to make meaning out of their lives. For some reason or another, they want to make some sense out of something that's happened to them. Now, this first big reason that they write memoir could be because they've suffered something or they've survived something, or they've experienced something really big and they want to try and put it in perspective. That's why there's so many memoirs by survivors, rape survivors, abuse survivors, terrible trauma survivors, PTSD survivors, people that have been through war or persecution or some kind of a terrible trial. Memoir, the purpose of memoir is to look at what happened to them and try and figure out how it impacted the person that they are today. Under that broad category, other reasons that people try and make sense out of the things that happen to them is because they understand that some things should never be forgotten. I picked three big events: World Trade Center, and then about 50 years before that, the Civil Rights Movement, and then about 25 or 30 years before that, the Holocaust and World War II. Each of these are terrible things that happen in our world. They're people hurting people. But the people who witnessed them, the people who survived them, the people who can talk the truth of what happened, what it felt like, are not going to be with us. The World War II survivors and a lot of the Holocaust survivors are no longer living. So that the only way we're ever going to be able to understand what happened and how people survived it is through their memoir. Ben Franklin said that if you wanted to be remembered, write something worth remembering. And this is one of the big purposes of memoir, is to record the things that you saw, the things that happened, and make sure they're not forgotten. If we don't learn from our history, we are doomed to repeat it. And that's where memoir is so important. Another reason, and this is a little bit closer to home, another reason that people write memoir is to make sense of the life that they live. They make to make sense of the things that they see and they hear, and that the people that they live with, to try and understand why things are the way they are. Why do I look at the world the way I look at the world? Why do I look at myself the way I look at myself? Why do I view my role in the world in this way? And in your closer world, the world of your friends, your peers, your classmates, your schoolmates, your church group, your neighborhood, your family, communities that you live in, when we listen to other people's stories of what the life that we think we know is like for them, it's impossible to treat those people the same way. The quote at the bottom is from a book by Catherine Bomer, and she said, "Now that I know your story, I cannot treat you the same way. I cannot look through you or above you, but I must meet you head on. Now I understand we are more alike than we are different." That's part of what they're pushing for with all of the police violence, is for the police to go out into the community, to listen to the people's stories, and for the people in the community to listen to the police's stories. Because once we come together and we can actually talk, then we begin to understand that we're bound much more by our likenesses than we are separated by our differences. So in this day and time, memoir is crucial. This is sort of the flip side of what I just talked about. So one purpose of memoir is to make sense of the world around you, and another reason for writing to understand your life is to make sense of the world inside of you. As a person who lives in that world of friends and school groups and church groups and communities and families, we know that people put labels on us. You're the oldest. You're the baby. Oh, you're the middle child. You're the smart one. You're the pretty one. You're a jock. You're a goth. You're a Muslim. You're a Jew. You're a Christian. You're African American. You're Asian. Oh, you're a mixed race. All of those labels that society puts on us tend to do more harm than good. None of us really fit neatly into a box, but we do it to other people because it makes us feel like we have some control. Memoir is a way of looking inside, of looking at those compelling, specific stories that you carry around inside of you, like those layers of the onion, and looking at them and deciding, this is how I want to define myself. Not your label, but the way I say that I am. So I used the picture of masks on this screen. Memoir is a way of taking off the mask, of revealing, this is who I really am. And then finally, this reason is much bigger than the community. This talks about how memoir reaches across communities and cultures and states and countries and nations and religions. And memoir is a way of helping us understand the people that seem completely and totally ununderstandable to us. The people that it's much easier for us to say they're bad, they're radical, they're this, they're that. Because they look completely different than we do, and they may have completely different cultures than we do, and completely different lifestyles than we do, and they may worship differently than we do. But the bottom line is we are all in a relationship together because we are all part of the one human race. So that when we read stories of people that live in Afghanistan or in Africa or in India or in China, when we read those stories of these people that seem so apart from us, and we read the same kinds of stories that we know, stories of falling in love, making decisions, struggling to make decisions, having babies, getting hurt, making mistakes, it becomes harder and harder to call them the other and drop bombs on them. When we know what someone who seems from the outside, even when there's a language barrier, when we know what's inside of them, you can't be enemies with those people. Because when you truly know what's inside someone, the barriers are broken down, because at the bottom line of everything, we all belong to one race, the human race, and we all share one world. and we're going to live or die together. So that's another reason that memoir is so critical in this day and in this time. Part of the reason that I went back into teaching, part of the reason that I didn't stay at the college level, is because my goal as a teacher is to reach out and give you the skills to change your own life, to change the world that you live in, to understand the power of the world. Of the word, sorry. I have a poster somewhere that said the world was changed by books slicer thinner than a slice of pizza. Abraham Lincoln changed the world in 1,200 words. So my goal as a teacher is not just to teach you subject and verb and subject agreement and main idea. My goal is to teach you that your purpose is to decide what it is that you have inside of you and use it to make your life better and to make the world better for everyone. And language used well is the way to do that. So memoir is very important to me. I'm passionate about it. And it's why I start the year with it. All right. There's a lot here. And it's very deep. There's a lot of philosophy rather than just facts and procedures. So you're going to have to put some time into this video to be able to explain it without using just my words. So make sure you're an active viewer when you watch the video. Maybe you're going to have to rewatch it more than once. It's not very long, but make sure that it's clear. Write good notes in Cornell style. I just might let you use your notes on the assessment next week, so it's important that the notes work. Make sure that you can summarize the video when you are finished. Make sure that your summary isn't just memoir is this and this and this and we write it for this and this and this. I expect you to understand those motives that are underneath it, those human motives. Go back to the essential questions from the first slide to help you with this. And then finally, write one good question, please. A question that's going to help us discuss this video to clarify things with you and your peers. Okay, with that said, now you can dance. Bob Marley, One Love. Is that perfect for memoir or what?